a part-time consultant on this project, and she is our family support specialist right now.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to me, whatever. But I am very excited about this program. I've always had a special place in my heart for families as they try to process through the special education system. It's very complex, and as a parent, you're emotionally connected to that. And so therefore, when you're in a process like that, and you're emotional, your emotions are involved, the complexity can often be overwhelming. And to be able to be a person that works for the district that can support families through that process, I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for this district and for the families in this district. One of the best things about enabling and encouraging and educating parents in this area is the fact that we know that the more engaged the parent is in the process, the more successful the outcomes for the child. And that's the goal. So you can read this to yourself, but I mean, it's basically, in a nutshell, what Mr. DePietro and I just spoke about. It's about helping families through the process, facilitating, supporting, educating, answering every question, offering, just even offering the emotional support as well. Just, hey, I understand this is tough. Why don't we work through it together? And some of that is what I plan to do. So I'll be able to answer questions for them about the process, about how it works, what agendas look like, what they can expect at a PPT, those kinds of things. I can also assist them, as the process continues, not just in the initial stages, but as the process continues. If there's a difficulty in communicating their ideas to the team, I can work with them on different ways to communicate in positive ways to get the results that you want to see. I also will have a host of other resources for parents. Newly identified children, often families don't understand what the disability may be, so offering them the resources to inform themselves and educate themselves about that. I will attend PPT meetings with a parent if they request it. It's not something that the team could request. It has to be on the parent's part that they want me there. And I'm there not, as Mr. DePietro said, I am not an advocate. I am there basically to support the parent through the process. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, if you can click that. Here's again some of the things I will do. I will answer questions. I will assist them throughout the process. I'll attend meetings. I'll share community resources. Some things I will not do. I don't participate in the process at the request of staff, only at the request of the family. I don't attend PPTs unless the parent requests it or the family requests it. Any meeting that a parent has with me is confidential. So if they share something with me prior to the PPT and they choose not to share that at the PPT, I'm not going to share that information. This is about building a trust and a relationship with the parent and the family to support them through this process. Back up one. Yep. I do not act as an advocate. Again, I want to reiterate that fact. It's not an advocate position, but I'm a support and an advisor, basically, on the whole process of what goes on. Kind of the way I envision it happening, because I haven't, actually practiced this yet, but I do have 2 families that have already contacted me, even though we haven't sent out the official brochure yet. The rumors fly. But anyway, I anticipate it happening in a way that I would have a pre-meeting with the parent to discuss with them, okay, did you get all the proper paperwork from us? Did you get your invitation? Did you get your procedural safeguards? Did you get restraint and seclusion paperwork? To make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to do on our end. Then I would also talk with them, what do you understand about this process? Go over what the agenda will look like. Go over with them, like, okay, this is who you can expect to see when you walk into the PPT room. It's quite overwhelming, as you can imagine, as a parent to walk in a room and see 12 professionals sitting there. And you're like, okay, here I am, I'm by myself, and there's this whole group. We want parents to feel like they are part of that team, not that they're walking into that. So I want to prep them in that way. During the PPT, if I'm asked to attend, I'm going to sit there, I'm going to help the parent talk about, maybe prompt them to go over some questions that they may have developed at the pre-meeting with me. To say, okay, remember you had that question, I might point to it on the paper for them, just so that their nerves don't get the best of them. And also at the end, I plan to meet with them after that to discuss, basically 3 or 4 different questions. Do you feel like your team was prepared for you? Were they able to answer your questions? Do you feel like your input was valued and considered when decisions were made? And also, what is your understanding of the decisions that were made in that PPT? Because sometimes that's where the communication breaks down. One person on a team may think that this was the decision that was made, and the family may have heard something different. So we want to make sure that there is unity in what everybody feels came out of that PPT. And then I'm hoping that this then continues to facilitate into the whole communication process for that team and for that child. Because as I said in the beginning, having the family involved and engaged in the process definitely improves the outcomes for the child. And that's what we want. Any questions about this?
Yes, so if someone says, what to do when you disagree, what would you advise them?
Actually, it's an online course that I took as part of my prep for this. And it's basically, it's communication skills and strategies. It's ways to disagree with people in a polite and constructive way. It kind of gives them some sentence starters, maybe some ways to phrase things so that they don't come across as negative, but more as, here's an idea that I had, would the team consider this, those kinds of things.
Okay, so you're not talking about appeals of the PPT?
I'm sorry?
You're not going into like an appeal of the PPT?
No, this is just what to do during the PPT if you should happen to disagree with something that someone else has said.
Understood, okay.
There's a host of resources on both the state education site and the CPAC site that families may not be aware of, and just to sit with them at a pre-meeting and kind of go through a lot of that kind of stuff, I think is going to be informative for them, but also helpful.
Will you be going out to their houses to meet with them, or will they have to come to you?
No. We will talk about, my hours are by appointment so that it's flexible, but meeting in a public place or I do have an office with a window, so I'm pretty happy. So it'll either be meeting at the office or like in a library or, a town hall, someplace like that.
We're hopeful that we're just starting 1 or 2 families, and you saw some of the brochures that she developed with support. We're hoping we're going to be able to come back to you and that you're going to hear the response. You've had parents who come here sometimes and they feel that their voice is not well enough heard. They're very frightened by the situation. They're not sure if their child is getting the support. Colleen and I have been working on this together for a while now, and one thing we said is she'll never speak at the PPT, and she will let the parents know that. She's not here to speak for them. If a parent comes in and she put their hand on like her wrist, she's going to know they're getting anxious, and she could say, do you have a question, and try to get them to do it, just so that they feel that somebody from the school is saying, we want to hear from you, not, if you don't understand, just be quiet. It's the opposite. You should feel fully informed. You should feel that you understand the decision. And the post questionnaire is so important to us to say, did you feel you heard? Do you feel that they heard you? And do you feel you're prepared? Those are such important questions so that parents feel that they are being treated with respect in an area where it's new to them. We're starting just with new PPT meetings first, because there are people who would say, could I have that? And I've been in the system for 3 years, and I'd like to give someone. And we may go there. I think right now we're looking at pre-K to 5, actually age 0 to 5, 5th grade. because that's the younger starting. That's where people are first coming. By the time the high school, they've usually had 2 or 3 meetings. They're familiar with it. They might not need someone to help them through it. They may have questions. They may call and say, it's not my first time. She can answer some things like that. And then a very valuable piece of this is she is going to make herself available to the school principal and say, I can tell you that people were very comfortable in that meeting, and give them feedback so the principal can meet with their team and to Gussie and our directors and say, here's what we see happening. These are PPT models that are working. Here's where people are feeling comfortable. We need the people who feel that their child needs additional services, not to feel that they are a burden or that there's money directing what services they will get. Those are not the conditions. They are not burdens. That's who we are here for. They're not keeping the best ones home. Everyone comes to us that cares to come to us, and we want them to feel valued. And we don't want them to think, well, you know, that's expensive. That's not the issue. At the PPT, you talk about the need. How we meet that need is how we do that at another point. The PPT defines the need and the response, but how we get to that response could be ways that we have to do. We should never be saying, well, I don't know if that's good because that's expensive. That's upsetting to hear that that would ever happen. I know people have experienced that at some point. People think, you know, you had a budget crunch. It's irrelevant. This is about your child today, your child's needs, and our ability to try to respond to make your child feel that they're a valued part of our school. That's not rhetoric, guys. I mean, I don't know if you, I think you know me and trust me enough. This is really legitimate. I think having a parent, a family support specialist is going to give us a new entry into families feeling like this school cares, this district cares about us. We need to have people feeling that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right into special education report.
We have a lot of presentations.
So good evening. Okay,
You want-
good evening, members of staff. Can I stand here? So,
Why don't you stand together?
If you stand near the student, your voice will carry into the microphone.
all right, well, I'm pretty loud, but I'll do that.
I don't know, Tim, it's really loud.
I can hear it quite well.
So I want you to know that with the exception of the Student Services Director and 5 paraprofessionals, we are fully staffed. In our 5 buildings, we have 29 special ed teachers, 4 speech and language pathologists, now that we have Carolyn Mitchner, who just came into us on full-time on October 1st, 1 occupational therapist, 2 certified occupational therapy assistants, we call them quotas, 1 physical therapist, 3 psychologists, 5 social workers, 108 paraeducators, and we still have 5 positions that are open, and 1 BCBA, which is our board certified behavior analyst. So these hardworking, dedicated people serve 371 students with individual educational plans. That's up from last year where we had about 361. We have 27 Plainfield students who are in out-of-district placements at this time. That is down from last year because we have brought back some of our students into our program within our district. So we have about 6 Plainfield students who've returned from out-of-district placements who are in our Plainfield Pathways program, which is that behavior program that's at the early childhood building. And we have a couple pending. We continue to meet and discuss those transition plans with kids to try to bring our children back into our community. Because again, that is always our goal, to bring them into the least restrictive environment and back into our community. So I want you to know that. We do have several focus areas for special ed for this year, and one of them is improving student voice in the planning and placement team meeting. We meet with our special ed building people monthly, and we talk about, special ed does, we talk about the law, the initiatives, any specific building concerns from that special ed team. So we've had 2 meetings because we've been in 2 weeks of school, and our focus is student voice in the planning and placement team meeting. So that kind of ties really nice into that family support person. And really nothing about us without us. That's going to be a little mantra that we're going to use. It was a message that we heard very clear from the Connecticut State Department, from the Bureau of Special Ed. Kids need to be involved. This is their education. This is their life. This is their IEP. So we work very hard to prepare our students to be part of that meeting. Some of that is through discussion with them, some of it is through questionnaires, some of it is through questions that then we script for them and we share for them if they want in their PPTs. And the participation, as I see it, is going to look very different and individualized for each kid. So it's really going to be as unique and individualized as our students are. And so again, that is really, I'm going to track it because I want to see that grow. I want that participation to grow. We are hosting a meeting called MAPS. This is something else we're doing to involve kids. And MAPS is making an action plan for students, and it's being facilitated by Learn, which is a special ed resource center that is coming into our district, and it's an informal meeting of parents, this child's parents, family, the child, the educators, and some friends, and they're going to create a personal-centered plan and a vision for 5 years for this student. Again, we're going to track participation, and it really is my goal to really increase our student voice. So that is a focus. And again, we see our family support specialists being very helpful to us. Another focus area is going to be approving student access and benefit from assistive technology. So we have a number of students who use assistive augmented communication systems. And I think you've seen some of this, there's been some presentations here. Last year there was. Those assistive AAC devices are those students' voices. And we have many other students who use assistive technology for learning, for reading, for writing. And so we need to really learn how to use those, how to make benefit for our students from AAC and AT. We do belong, Plainfield does belong to Bookshare, which is audiobooks that we use for students that have print disabilities. They're textbooks, they're literature, things that we use in the classroom. So we do have access to that. We also have a consult with EastCon that they will be providing training in the AAC devices for us for a team at Plainfield Memorial. So that's something else we're doing. We're also sending 4 staff members to the Assistive Technology Conference of New England, which is in Rhode Island. We're sending 2 of our intensive learning special ed teachers. We're sending our BCBA, which is our board certified behavior analyst, and we're sending one of our CODAs, so the certified occupational therapy aide. And they're going to go to workshops, they're going to view the latest development, and they're going to help us assist children using assistive technology and learning. So that's another focus. And our third focus really is going to be improving our district response to behaviors and our Plainfield Pathways program. So we're going to continue that partnership and development of Plainfield Pathways because it's still new and there's still much to develop. It's that new program at the ECC, again, for those kids with behavioral needs. And our goal is to meet the needs of the students who were or are outplaced within our own community and within our own district. Again, we currently have 8 students registered. We have 6 students in the program, and we have 2 pending. The Plainfield Pathways staff works with us to modify the Catapult program. That's the national program that they have. That's the company that has with their constructs, but they're modifying it to meet the needs of Plainfield students and Plainfield the community. They go to planning and placement team meetings with me. They help us plan transitions for students, help us identify if the student is really a good fit, if they're ready, and what that transition might look like. So that's very important. So, and as we look to fill the director position, the student services director, I just want to thank the superintendent and our building administrators because they have taken on this workload and they have really shared in it. So, and again, it's all to educate our students with special needs. And so again, I thank you. Because I couldn't do it without you and we couldn't do it without you. So, any questions for me? Thank you.
The state of Connecticut and the United States government requires that we fill out this EDO 99 on a regular basis, and it's now due. So what I'm asking is the Secretary of the Board of Education to approve and move forward with her signature on this form, and Mr. DePietro and I will sign the form and send it off to the state of Connecticut.
All right, so you're looking for a motion to approve?
Yes.
to purchase the participation in the child nutrition program?
That is correct.
Okay.
I move that we participate in the child nutrition program.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Ron, do you want her to sign this form, or do you?
I have the original right
We have the
here.
original.
At the
Okay.
end of the meeting, I'll have the secretary sign this.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, superintendent's report.
So I would draw your attention to the last page of your paper budget, or the last page of your electronic agenda. And I would tell you that we annually on October 1st submit our enrollment. That's the number that you look at from year to year to year to see what the changes are. This year, we actually have two surprising things that we have to be a little bit cautious of. So I'm going to begin, but if you look at the top, it's larger print, and it's what we put in the budget. I hold myself accountable for giving to you what we think the number of children will be in the district, and you'll see that if you look at the top, and you were to look part of it down, it says total under SHE in the middle of the page, you read across, it says that we expected 2,358 children to arrive. That's right in the middle of that page. If you look directly underneath it, I put, which is the bottom, which is what we submitted to the state through Chris Oberdorf. There's a chart, and that chart had 2,241. So this is the first year in my 7 years of serving you that we've been off by 100. Where are the 100 children? Where did they go? You don't just lose 100 kids. We did. It is a unique year. And there are two things that I think we have to be cautious. The first one is if you go right to the middle again, you're going to look at where it says total, and then in bold it says October 1st, 2018 enrollment. You can see the numbers directly underneath each other. So if you're on the two lines I'm looking at, under PK we said 125 and there's 131. That's good. You look at the next one, we said there'd be 168 kindergarten children, there's only 132. That's a 30.
That's a big.
That we can't, I can only do that by births in the district. That's all I can't, they're not here except for our pre-K program. But our pre-K program suggested, because we did an all-day K, and the rise of that all-day K, which went up to 172 now in grade 1, and it is being held 172. The next number you see, 172 predicted, and 172 came in. So we're not off carrying the numbers from K to 1, because they stay with us. We're good about retention for the most part. But that kindergarten is an unknown. And that means that there could be something happening, because pre-K is 131 and K is 132. Now another K walked in today, we know, ask Mrs. Trahan here. But the reality is that will rise during the year, especially when we see in January when more children come in for the pre-K, they hit age 3 and they become eligible. So the 131 will rise. But the issue is, we don't know if that K is going to be a new sustainable number. Can you imagine if we were only putting 130 children per grade level through our school system? The high school would have 4 times 132. That's 520 students that would be in that building, as opposed to the 800 it could handle.
Yeah.
Now, I'm more concerned not about the fact that we save money, don't save money, but it reduces the opportunities for children, where there might be 9 teachers in that department, there could be 7. If you stop losing 200 children at the high school. So we really do need to look at that, and I'm going to show you where it blips again, which is in the 9th grade, so already jumping to 9th grade. Yeah, look, I know, we already know, I can see it. But if you go through, it also gives you the reliability of how we're talking to the public. 172, it came in 172. In 2nd grade, 159 came in at 159. 3rd grade, 151 came in at 151. We do our homework. We look at retention, and we retain our children in the elementary. 159 in 4th grade actually became 148. But in 5th grade, 166 became 171. Do you remember when we got our budget passed and there was some extra money, and we told you that 4th grade was dropping and 5th grade was rising? I asked you for a 5th grade teacher. So although the number total in the school might be similar, we dropped down to 148, we dropped the teacher. We increased to 171 over 166. We did add that teacher so that the class size would be about 20 in the class rather than 24. So we made good decisions there. You can see that the 3rd grade, which is 150, We expected that to be 150, it's 151. The problem is, if you look at Shepherd Hill, in the third grade, as we projected on top, we thought 70 would be at Shepherd Hill and 80 would be at Moosup. So we put 4 teachers at Moosup, 20, 20, 20, 20. Does that make sense? But at Shepherd Hill, with only 70, we put 3 teachers. But look at the bottom and look at what we found in the third grade at Shepherd Hill. It actually is a little higher, 72, a little lower at Moosup, and in fact, we had 3 more children walk in the door. Our numbers right now with only 3 teachers is 24, 24, 24. And in one class is 23 and 25. We know the adjustments, but in general, we're starting to see classes of 25. They are necessary, but we are now trying to ask the new people who come in, if they live on the Moosup border, would you be willing to send the Moosup school? There's only 19 students in a class, 20 students in a class at Moosup. So why would we continue to add to a Shepherd Hill enrollment if they're brand new to the district? And what will they do after third grade? Where will they go?
They'll all be together.
They're going to go to Memorial. They're going to all be together. So we're trying to educate parents who are coming to the district that are new to us. Our schools are equal. You saw the data. Shepherd Hill and Moosup are indistinguishable in performance. So we really just want to give parents and our teachers a chance to have the more appropriate class size. But again, you can go to 4 and 5, look at 6, we expected 180, 176, 7th grade 182, 177. You don't change a lesser teacher for 5 children. It doesn't make sense. In grade 8, 170, we have 172. Look at 9th grade. We projected 168 and 131 showed up. That will change to about 150 before the year's over. I'm gonna tell you, that's how close we will be by the end. Why is it 131? Only 98 children moved from the 8th grade out of 156, 163 students. Only 98 went to the high school. 58 or more went to either Ellis or Norwich. We don't offer those programs. We can't possibly replicate what Ellis and Norwich do. Killingly has 12 to 14. So, they take some, but the aggregate at Killingly is dwarfed by the others, because that is a not just vocational, but that's an agricultural vocational, so that's a unique group. We have 2 or 3 that went to a magnet, 3 or 4 that went to the arts magnet, or the Quinebaug Valley Community Middle College. So we don't mind those. There are people who have choice, and that's who we are. We're a district that allows for our students to have that choice. But if the number 131, you would expect 170 children coming from the 8th grade to see about 150 or 60. It gets added, folks, because Sterling sends children to make that 131. 98, 100 came from our 8th grade. 19 more children came from Sterling. We typically have 25 to 28 children. We've had as many as 120, 140 children over 4 years. That's an average of 30 to 35 students coming from Sterling. Sterling's enrollments are down to begin with. They also have a decline in enrollment. And then they have the option to go to, the nice bright lights. And we don't disrespect Ellis. That's an opportunity. But we definitely need to bring in our CNAs and our college, application courses that the co-scheduled programs. We have a new thing coming before us about mathematics that can look at a partnership with, I believe it's UConn. So we're looking at these things that give people at least that opportunity. But that's a child who's going to be career and college oriented, and we want to bring those. We also want to think of ways that we can encourage our students to stay with us and succeed with us, and that we will prepare them for whatever they choose, if they want to go into a technical school beyond high school or a college. We need to do something that lets these students feel that they are getting a very high quality program. We already know some of our things, such as our marching band is now state and regionally recognized, and that we're showing more and more, and our plays are drawing in thousands of visitors to see things like that. We're showing that we have that extracurricular opportunity. We also showed them that we gave them free SATs, which they're very excited about, that we do it all the way from 9th grade to 12th grade, and that we give them that opportunity to be successful and not have to have an added payment. We're up to, at the state level, at the district level, I told you for the past 3 years we went from 28 to 48%. This year we reported 56% poverty for the district, if I'm correct. 56% poverty. That's a new number that we have not had in this district. Now, the high school gets a little less in terms of numbers, and yet they're reeling from the numbers they have as well, only because a lot of times at the high school, students do not elect to participate in the free or reduced, and that's where the state gets that number from. So if they don't elect to, not that they weren't eligible in 5th grade or 8th grade, they just choose not to do that. They can take a different lunch, they want to be like their peers. There is a drop-off when you get to those numbers, but the numbers are raising across the district, and we hit that number of 56% for the district. If you look at what's happened in the last 7 years, and yet we've done amazing things for these children, which is the last part of the report. So that number 131 is, for me, in my education, in my 45 years, that's a number to watch and be a little concerned about, only because we had 160 children here yesterday. It's not that we didn't have them. It's not that they weren't born in the district. It's just that they're getting more options. And the state is advocating for some of the magnet schools, and they're pumping money into the vocational schools. Some of the vocational schools are a little concerned about losing money, but most of them were preserved. We took a $693,000 cut, and some of the other schools did not take a cut. We had to compress some of our programs. That can make people feel like, is my child going to go to college, or should they just get a trade? So we are dealing with a cultural thing, we're dealing with a financial issue, we're dealing with an organization. We have a lot of issues that is not a warning right now, it's just clearly on our map. It's on our radar.
Ken, where does the October 1st enrollment number stand in terms of year over year? Did this number go up or down from this point last year?
I have last year's, it went down from last year, clearly, because the projection that we had, 2358, you were told was pretty much stable. Right, it said, if you look at the line above, it says the projected increase from 2018 to 19 was 15 students. So we had 15 less students than 2358 the prior year.
Right.
So we are at 2340 or something like that. We're at 2240. That's 100 less from the prior year.
Now, is the state taking what our total district enrollment is as a end-of-the-year figure? Is it a continuously rolling updated figure?
October 1st is the date. And so if you spend 35 million, they're going to divide it by your October 1st enrollment.
So technically speaking then, when it comes to a matter of the ECS funding,
Yep.
and any budget review that's coming up in the next year or two, we are a district that has a decreased enrollment.
Yes.
Which is one of the criteria that we stood behind in defending additional funds from being cut.
Correct. That is correct.
And that has now changed.
That has now changed for us by 100. The issue is ECS has never relegated itself to the enrollment. Even though it's supposed to, it's been flat funded for the last 5 years with devoid of any numbers of enrollment. So they can now say, but the law says under MDR, if you have a decline in the enrollment, you can make a rateable reduction for the impact on what the town's share is, not ECS. ECS will come to us wherever they gave it, but the town share can
The
be changed.
overall educational funding.
Overall educational funding can
There
be
were a lot of
changed.
firsts for the town and the state over the last year or so, but this is, I agree with you, this is something for multiple reasons to keep a close eye on. Long-term, definitely opportunities and a cultural shift, but short-run, especially with the governor's race and the changing legislature, that could be a very, very important statistic to be mindful of.
Absolutely granted. A last closing on this, so, because I want you to have simple, like, visual pictures. Look at the line, even the October 1st enrollment, whether you look at the bottom of your page or that middle that says in bold October 1st. Just look, what is the most common number that you see for an enrollment in any year? Just tell me the most common number you see. Yep. The 170. You see it? 171, 176, 177, 172, 178, 173. What you need to know is there is a resilience to what's happening in the community. You can't predict why people will or will not have children, but sociologically, if there are approximately 170 students at every grade level, it's telling you what the birth rate pretty much is for those children who choose to attend school. The factors are in and out migration, why people choose to move to the next community, to move to Thompson or move to Griswold or move out of state. That's in and out migration would affect you. And The other one is whether there is a significant change in a program where they say we're going to go to charter schools or magnet schools, which disrupts that number. So when we look at these numbers, we always look, what is the cohort survival from grade 8 to grade 9? That's an indicator where the grade 8 thinks that grade 9 is going to give them what they want for their child. And in this case, the answer was no this time, less of a yes. And in the pre-K, you saw last year, you were reeling, where did 172 children come from in kindergarten? We would thought that if we went to all-day K, a lot of people won't come. The exact opposite happened because it meant people didn't have daycare, they didn't have those options, they felt it was a realistic expectation, and because 80% of the state has all-day K. But now we see this bump back. So I don't know if the pre-KK is indicative of a change in who the migration of the families are. I do know that we have to watch the 8 to 9 cohort survival. A big lesson in 12 minutes, but I need you to understand the importance of why we talk about enrollments in October. And we will share them with you along the way, so before we close out the year.
I have a question.
Yes.
In the past, U.S. News and World Reports ranked the high schools.
Yes.
And the standardized testing changed so that Plainfield was no longer ranked.
Correct.
However, when we were ranked, we actually did quite well against other schools in the district.
We did.
And I think that was helping us maintain or maybe draw some kids from Sterling or keep the kids in the district. Now, we don't know. There's no, like, to say, well, here's some objective measuring tool from another source. So as a parent, I can say, well, yeah, I want my kid to go to Plainfield versus something else. Can we get back? Why aren't we being ranked by U.S. News and World Report? I mean, can we fix that, or is it just...
They're not, they stopped ranking in the last couple of years, and part of the reason, there still are rankings things out there. There are other ones, not U.S. News, because the state and the federal government started changing the testing. There was no longer a indicator to hold on to. But I think what you're asking for is there a way to get the public recognition of who we are? U.S. News was one of them.
It was a good one.
We need, and if you go on TV, you see a lot of the private schools advertising all the time. They're advertising for their district.
So, but, I mean, so the federal government mandates you got to take a test.
Yes.
Well, doesn't the federal government, who collects all this data and puts it out there or records it saying, here's where we are?
CSD, the State Department of Ed, because now we're all on this SAT. There's no longer an SBAC versus a CAPT versus a CMT. That was random for a couple of years. Right now, every school is on the SAT test in Connecticut. So now you can look at every school in terms of their performance on the SAT. You can look at one against the other.
Okay.
And I gave you that report last time. Showed you where we ranked.
You did.
Yeah. So we can see that we're in the middle, and in some cases at the head of the pack. You know, our math is a little lower, our ELA is pretty strong.
Okay.
Good point, so, because what you're saying is, the people have to want to be here. They need something to tell them, this is a good value for your dollar.
News and World Reports, but they don't really know.
No. Right. So, although it got shifted to section 6, if you happen to have the paper version and it's electronic, I did do on the new website, it's called What's News from the district office, and I felt that this was the quickest way, and because it's in paper and you go on the website, for those who are here, you're almost all members of the faculty, staff, and some of our participants who have a courtesy of giving the public some video information about our meeting. So I won't read it all, but I got to tell you, in a year where we had lost virtually $750,000 from the state, the town gave us everything they could, but from the state we lost that. And then this year again, we lost another $200,000. I at least want you to feel proud as a board and as a district that we said we would strengthen early childhood. That's a board goal. It's listed among the 6 biggies. And if you look at it, we did universal pre-K and full day K, and they came in one of the times of some of our most difficult financial challenges. At least we have to look at the fact that we now have 14 years to help be successful with the child. Instead of having 1 to 12, because K is not even regulated by law, now it is, but it wasn't. We now have K to 12, which is 13. We now have pre-K to 12. And we really reach into about 85% of our pre-K families. So I think for us, for a school system with over 50% poverty, we have to be thinking of when we had 28% poverty and family supplemented education, it's different now. We need to be supplementing for ourselves. Providing a safe and effective learning environment. if you don't remember all the meetings we had, Rena and your principals can tell you well over $100,000, probably closer to $200,000 for all the safety, from cameras that are in our schools, to fob entries, to video surveillance, to double door entrances where we felt we needed them. These are all safety features, as well as the technology and moving more towards one-to-one, all the way down to grade 3. These are another one of your goals, that we got money not just from the taxpayer, but $150,000 in state aid, another $150,000, that was for technology, another $150,000. We just signed over our expenditures on the last safety grant, and there may be a new award because only 3 of our 5 schools were given money the last round, right? 3 of our 6, ECCB. Yeah, you're a school, we're a school. We have children, yes, and pathways included, yeah. So we have 6. But we got 3 of them, and now we're hopeful that the state will redo that safety award and we'll get some more money. But again, to know, and look at what we did just with Memorial School. I mean, that if no one wants to credit, someone has to say, we pulled off something that, you know, was pretty tricky to do. And those children were in a safe environment. So 1 early childhood, 2 safe environments, academic rigor. And if you look at how many of our schools, 3 of our schools were ranked Category 1, 2 with distinction. No school is below Category 3. 4 just says that there's a concern, and 5 says the state has to intervene. We're no longer in those categories. We had 2 schools that were under investigation 7 years ago. We're not even in that category. We've made movement, we've made change. And even though you know that there's been some concern, even on Facebook, about are we having a safe environment with, you know, with all of our schools and everything else, you know that some of you here, even some of our district leaders, we do a walkthrough every year. And even on Friday, there'll be a walk through Shepherd Hill, and through Moosup, and through the high school. And we go through with a systematic list to say, let's look at all these issues to make sure that we're thinking about roofs and electricity and electronics and rugs and asbestos. And we go through everything with every lead custodian so that we can ask not only what is working in what you've done, not only what needs to be done this year, but what is the 2- and 3-year projection. So I think that you're keeping abreast of what I think the public is asking for us, and we don't, again, say it enough sometimes that people can appreciate. In terms of academic rigor, putting in a CNA program, changing in the 6 through 8 and asking about languages, bringing in phonics and foundations in the early grades, these are things that people said, these are tried and true. Kids need to use penmanship, not just keyboards. People need phonics, children, so they can understand how to decode. You can't use phonics all your life, but you have to start somewhere so you can decode. And once you get past the rhythm of decoding, you go from, you know, learning to read to reading to learn. That's when you're just processing reading for higher order thinking. The last one is learning diversity, and tonight you heard a little bit about our special ed. So the summary here is, it's written for you. I think you need to at least recognize for yourself that we are working very hard on a very identified, clearly listed set of goals, and we have been able to deliver most, not all. We didn't put 2 languages in the middle school, we put 1. We didn't get CNA in the first year, took us 2 years. You know, we want to make some more partnerships with colleges and university to make students feel that they have transition. But we did tell these students that you should not have to pay at home if your parent has the money for SATs. You should be taking that, just so you have the right to move if you want. We should be telling, you know, our children in the early grades that, and our parents, that if you can start them earlier, you have a better chance of your child being successful in the early grades. Shepherd Hill and Moosup are now identical, and it's not just because it happened. We made things happen to make sure curriculum was strong, teachers were prepared, and that we brought the children in as early as we could. So you can read it. I just wanted to at least reflect on the fact that I think we are trying to show that the board's goals are clearly moving in a constant direction forward, despite them.
Thank you. All right, standing committees and individual reports. As you'll note, there's the CAP Students Awards on December 4th. We try to give as much information as possible, advance notice of the date. It will be held at Killingly. Some of our students will be recognized, and I'm hoping to have board members that can attend, so I'll have Tammy send a follow-up email with the date and time at some point, and if you can RSVP to that. Also, next month, I'd like to try something a little different with standing committee reports. And that's where I just like to kind of bring it up in the agenda, so that way our policy committee, our curriculum committee can kind of give a report just of where they're at, what work they're doing, because we get to the end of the meeting and it's so much, but the work that we do beyond this meeting is a little different. We talk about different opportunities, and last month we had the opportunity to attend the Killingly Board of Ed meeting, and that's where I got the idea, and it really did work for them. They meet on 2 nights a month. They have a night where they go over all their new information, and then they have a separate night where they vote on everything. And it does change it. I want to keep it at 1 night, but I just want to bring those committee reports up earlier so that way we can engage with the administrators. We can engage with upcoming goals and maybe get some more input on that as well. With that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Can I just, under this topic, I apologize, it's a little impromptu, but let's talk about standing committees. You know that you saved $13,000 because we are not an active member of CAVE, right? But the CAVE CAPS conference is coming up. The cost, if you wanted to attend to learn from them, is still eligible for people who might want to invest, that we would pay that $300 or $400. I think having made a decision financially, I don't disrespect that, you're saving $13,000. If you wanted to invest $200 or $300 per person to allow them to go, if people wanted, I just need to know if you would like to do that. You're not becoming a member, you're not over-investing, but it is professional development for the board if they would like to do it. If you've not attended or have attended and thought you might like to go, we can just send you the information, and certainly we will find money that we have without overburdening the budget if people would like to go.
When is it?
It's usually the 2nd or 3rd week of November, so it's I know I don't know if we'd be in meeting before it happens. So it's, I'll send the exact date.
It's the 16th through the 18th.
16th, 17th, from Thursday night, but Friday and Saturday are the big days of
There's also the NSBA.
the national, but that gives us April.
Yep, which is in Philly, but the registration is this month. When it is close by, we try to consider going to that as well. I am not going to the CAVE CAPS conference this year.
So are there no standing committees meeting next? We're not going to do that?
We could pick a date like November 7th, which is the week before the next board meeting, if that would work for you, I think.
What is it?
It's a Wednesday, the week before the next board.
Oh.
What's that date?
That's for curriculum?
6 o'clock or something?
Usually,
I can do it.
the 7th is good for you.
I won't be here the month of November. I have a good reason.
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
I'm trying to get there.
Okay.
So Cindy will work with you on policy, so if you need a meeting, just write.
So it'll be the 7th?
Yeah, does that work?
That'll work.
Okay.
I think I
At
got
what
something
time?
on that day, but I gotta look and see what it is. I have no idea what that is.
What
Okay.
time is it?
5:36?
I think it's good for you, 5:30 is good.
5:45.
5:45.
There you go.
That's what we'll pick. That works.
And Peggy is on there.
Yeah, I won't be able to make it, I'll be out of town.
You want us to meet a different night?
If you want to do the week before or the week after, I'm out of town on business that week.
The whole week?
Yeah,
Okay, let me look.
I can do any other time. Now that you've already straightened it up with them.
No, that's okay.
Get tired. Can't even get in there. So November.
The week before, we're doing it,
You know, it's-
how about, well, maybe we can make it after the next one.
Oh, we're changing the date?
I'm out of town that week.
She's gonna come in any.
November 15th?
Yeah.
Is that the name?
That's fine.
That's the board meeting, right?
That's, no, the
No,
board meeting is the 14th.
Oh, it was the 14th.
15th at 5:45.
15?
Yeah.
Okay. How's that for you?
You can do that.
And you?
It could be questionable.
I'm not sure that we need a meeting, so we can make a tentative.
All right.
Okay.
And if I can't come, I'll let you know.
Yeah, and then we'll just figure a different time,
Okay.
okay?
So it's the 15th.
All right, with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.